Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. I'm out in the garage today, which is kind of unusual because we're going to be taking a look at this trash-picked Panasonic 27-inch television. Model number CT-27D like Delta, 10B like Beta. And it has a manufacturing date of January 2001. So it's pretty late model, and I don't normally feature TVs that are this large on the channel just because I find that they're really hard to move, very unwieldy. 20 inches are about the limit of the TVs I'd like to show on the channel or even have. So the way I came about this TV is it's definitely trash picked, and a local viewer reached out and just sent me an email and just said, hey, by the way, there's a TV located and it had the address. And I looked at the address and it was close by here in Portland, close by to where I live. And I was like, originally I was not gonna go look at it. But then I thought, you know what? I had to go out and do some errands anyway. So I was like, let me just go check it out because it was pretty close by. And there it was sitting on the side of the road in the rain and had been raining for a good amount of time. I think pretty much 24 hours had been absolutely pouring. But I thought, okay, I'll grab it. So I threw it in the back of the car and I brought it home. Now at this point, that was several days ago, and you might be able to tell by the little bit of light inside the garage here that it is now sunny again. So the rain has gone away. And because the TV was pretty waterlogged, when I got it home, I put it in the garage on a little cart and I immediately took it apart. I don't like to take TVs I find on the street into the house because it could have bugs inside. You don't know where these came from. Might have come from a cockroach infested apartment or house, and someone put it on the curbside, and I don't want to bring those bugs into my house. So I immediately took the back cover off, and I decided to take the main PCB, the board itself, which was all wet, and bring that inside the house. Now I just stuck it on top of a heating vent, and that way I let the air circulate over it, and then the warm air from the heating system when that would come on, and I think it pretty much has totally dried the PCB. And I think from my understanding, based on the email that I got from the viewer, plus the amount of dirtiness that's on this TV, I don't think it was outside for very long. I think it got rained on, but it was probably placed out on the sidewalk when it was still sunny, and then it got rained on that night and the next day when I went and picked it up. Now with a TV like this, I figured it's worth taking a look at, and we'll make a video about it, see if it even works. If it doesn't, I'll just take it to be recycled, which is honestly better than it sitting on the street and someone kicking it in or smashing it. And that would just create a hazard and a mess for the people who live nearby where the TV was set on the curb. Honestly, it was, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about people putting TVs on the curbside. It allowed me to go pick it up, but it's really not difficult to take a TV like this to a place that can recycle it. In fact, here in the Portland, Oregon area, you can take these to charity shops if that's allowed, and they will take a TV, whether it's working or not, and they will recycle it if it doesn't work or try to resell it. Maybe the person who put this on the curbside didn't have access to a car or a vehicle, so in that case, it's big, it's heavy, so I guess I can give them some grace for that. But honestly, for electronics and stuff, there are plenty of options in the area here in Portland where you can take these things and get rid of them. Off my soapbox now. This TV itself, while it's big, it's a pretty nice television. Even though it looks like it's just sort of the crappy black plastic TV, which it is, it's got some cool features actually. Now, since the TV's big and unwieldy, it's actually kind of handy that I have the board out of the TV because it allows us to look at all the ports that are available on this TV. So right off the bat, we can see by the RCA jacks that are on here, this actually has component video input. So it has regular composite video, has component video input, stereo audio, and it has an S-video jack. Has a couple extra jacks on the side, which I assume are going to be audio output, probably for the internal tuner. On the front side of the TV, where you can't see, it's the other side of the board here, it also has RCA jacks for composite video and stereo audio along with a headphone jack. For North America on consumer televisions, this is pretty much as good as you can get. We never got SCART here, and having RGB on a TV like this is extremely unusual. Not to say there's not a way to RGB mod this TV. The thing is, component video input, which is on here because DVD players, by the time this TV were out, had component video output for the best possible image. It's pretty trivial to get an RGB to component converter. That conversion process is lossless, so you're really not giving up any quality when you do that conversion using one of those adapters, as long as the adapter is designed well. I'm just gonna put some gloves on here because I'm gonna talk a little bit about the fact that if we look at the high voltage anode connection, it's pretty sooty. That tells us that this TV is relatively high hour. Sorry if you hear some crows. They love hanging out around my house and they make a bunch of noise, so we might hear those. Either way, all the sootiness here tells us that this is a relatively high hour set, which is good. It means it was used, and it's not great for the fact that the TV might be worn out, but I like to know that someone who owned this TV or the owners over the years did get their use out of this TV. It wasn't like they bought it and it sat there and was never used and then was thrown out. Because if I hadn't picked this up off the curb, there's a good chance this thing just would have been smashed and or recycled. The neck board, which also has a high voltage connection here for the focus, that's pretty sooty as well. So it just tells us that this is pretty high hour. But since this is a relatively late model set from 2001, tells us that there's a good chance that the CRT hopefully is in pretty good shape and isn't all worn out and burned in, for instance. Now, one thing I hadn't really done is closely inspect the CRT to see if it's got any scratches. It is curved, it's bulbous, it's not like a Trinitron or something. So the middle part of the set here, if the set were laid face down onto the ground concrete, would definitely have scratches. At least I don't see anything. The front glass, it's quite dusty, but I don't see any scratches, and that's a good thing. And I don't see any obvious burn-in, but that doesn't really tell us much. All right, well, at this point, I don't think there's really too much else to do. I'm pretty confident that this board is dry enough to test this TV out. If not, well, we're gonna get a spark and smoke show, and then I'll recycle the board or keep it for spare parts and recycle the rest of the TV. Let me just turn the TV around so you can see the backside. It's dirty, and I can see the fact that some water has dripped through the vents. Luckily, this part of the back cover didn't have vents in it, so when the rain was coming down, it didn't fall directly onto the yoke and the neck board and stuff like that, but it did drip down the CRT onto the main board, which is why it was all wet. Now, when I pulled it off, let me just step over here. There were some connections that I pulled off the board. Looks like some speakers. There's the ground connection for the neck board and the degaussing coil. And it looks like we have a clip, and there is the connection to the deflection yoke. So that means that all the connections are ready to go, and I can just slide this forward on the table here carefully. I don't want it to go falling and create a hazard here in the garage. And I'm going to place this rubber pad down on the table, because the problem with this table is very statically charged. If you rub things on it, it creates a static charge. And I'm worried if I just place this CRT driver board directly onto it, could end up causing damage. Could be damaged already for all I know, right? I don't know. The CRT that's in this thing is an M68 LGL 061X. So it is 68 centimeters in size. I'm going to leave the degaussing coil off, and that's because I'm going to first power this up off of my little EcoFlow power bank, and that's actually relatively high current, and I don't need that pulling load from my EcoFlow, because it's just a small little battery powered one. I pulled this all off in the rain. I didn't really pay attention, so I don't even know where things go. Okay, deflection coil. Okay, goes right there. We don't need to hook the speakers up either. All we really need to hook up is the ground lead from the CRT to the neck board here. And Panasonic has given us lots of length on all of these cables, so that's nice. Okay, so that's on. And then we have our power cord. Let's see if that got stepped on or something. A little bit of step, a little squished. Not too bad though. Okay, I went in the house and I grabbed the EcoFlow, which is already on because I was just charging it up. Let's turn on the AC output. Actually, I'm going to turn off the AC output. That way I can plug the TV into it, and then I can turn it on and we can see if anything goes bang. Okay, lastly, I need to figure out the buttons on the front of the set. Let me see if these are clicky. Okay, some of them are feeling gummed up. That could be from water intrusion that's still in them. That might be a problem. But I need to see which is the power button. Looks like it's this button right here on the far edge. So that's perfect. Once I turn that on, I can try to turn on the TV using this. Now, one thing I will mention is that while this TV is really big, it doesn't have a whole lot of depth to it. And all the weight obviously is in the front. The board is really small, so the chassis, there's not much going on in this set. It means it's heavy because there's a lot of thick glass, leaded glass. But on the other hand, it's not terrible. So you can kind of put it on the corner of your desk, and if this thing works well, I mean, maybe this is something that I'll keep around for hooking the Nintendo and stuff up to. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch when it comes to this thing. All right, are we ready to see if this thing works? Remember, I don't have the speakers hooked up, so we're not going to hear any sound. I'll just be able to tell if there's high voltage just from the static that will form over the CRT. I don't know if it's going to turn on when I turn this on or I have to go push that power button, but here we go, 3, 2, 1. Okay, nothing happened at all. TV hasn't done anything, but there is power output. So I'll reach around here. I won't touch anything, and I'm wearing these gloves. Here we go. Okay, it is on. And yeah, it's generating high voltage, so that's good. Nothing is smoked. Let's see what it's doing. Okay, there's an image, but you can't really see it here. I'm gonna try to turn the TV a little bit. Now I know there's no degaussing coil, so there could be some issues with that, but the image, it looks pretty terrible. I know we're looking at snow, but it's very soft and it's kind of defocused on the outside. I'm gonna go fiddle with the buttons to try to bring up a blue screen, see if that can work, but that's not looking promising. This TV just might be ripe, unfortunately, for recycling, and that board will be parts. Okay, so there's a TV video button. It's the furthest to the right. So let's see if I can make this work. It does work, but it looks pretty terrible. It says video 1 there. Oh boy. In case anyone is curious, by the way, this TV is currently using 65 watts while it's just sitting here displaying a black screen with a little bit of text on it. All right, well, since the TV is working, what I'm gonna do is shut the power off. I'm gonna turn this around so we can look at it, and I'm gonna go grab something to connect up to it so we can see what it looks like with a proper image on it and how bad it really looks. Okay, the VG91 is out. I have them both plugged into the EcoFlow, and I did hook the degaussing coil back up. Currently the AC power is off, so let's turn that on. Need to do that properly. Here we go. And I will put a glove on so I can turn the set back on again. Yep, video 1. That's funny, there's like a colon there. Don't know what's up with that. Okay, so VG91's on, but we're not seeing anything. I think that could be because I don't know what's what on the video outputs. There we go. Okay, well, it's working. I mean, that's for sure. Actually looks better than I thought, but the geometry kind of sucks, gotta say. Like, it's quite bowed in on both sides. And with these sets, typically in the service menu, that is not something that's adjustable. And of course, this thing would have been used for just watching regular television and movies and not pixel peeping. So I don't think people generally care about that. We're getting some interference lines, but that's probably coming from, the EcoFlow actually. I should probably move that away from the TV. Let me get that down onto the ground. Yeah, that didn't really help. It's a pure sine wave output, but it's obviously a little bit noisy, and I bet you the caps in the VG91 need a little help. Same with the TV. Besides those interference lines, which I'll go get an extension cord and plug it into the wall, and probably those will go away, it's not as bad as I thought, to be honest. It really isn't. Other than the bowing in, which I think is terrible, it's not horrible. In the corners of the image, if we look at this crosshatch, it's pretty soft and deconverged in the corners. The middle here is not bad. Bit of convergence problem there. A little bit on the top here, but over on the sides, well, that side especially, it kind of deconverges on the horizontal axis, and on this side, the convergence issue is on the vertical axis, at least in that corner. You know, the funny thing is, I feel this image could be better in that this thing is definitely worn out. But on the other hand, the geometry issues and the convergence issues, I mean, these could have been there from the very start. It's quite possible, actually. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let this thing run for a little bit. We'll just leave it on that. I'm gonna go grab an extension cord so we can plug it in the wall to get rid of these interference lines. And I'm just gonna let this run for a while. It kind of smells dusty. It doesn't smell musty. It doesn't smell like cigarette smokes. It just smells like this thing was stored for a very long time and just not used. So like as that board heats up back there, you know, you can just sort of smell the mustiness. But Hey, the television works. That's better than the last trash pick TV that I found in the mud. That one didn't work. We had to change the jungle IC. Yeah, link in the description to that one. Okay, so I moved it over to extension cord, and that interference pattern totally gone. So that was from the EcoFlow. And then I have the menu up, and the reason, or the way I did that is I used my phone. And I have this little universal remote control dongle that plugs into the USB-C port, and it's a universal remote app. Pretty much works on every phone, and works on every TV. And it's great because I can turn TVs off from across bars and in waiting rooms and stuff. It's pretty handy for that. The interface sucks on the app. You can't customize it, but it does work. And I think this is going to let us control things. So I can push up, down, left, right. Let's see what works and what doesn't. I can't seem to push the select button on that. That's kind of hilarious. I'm just looking through all the options here. So we do have TV video. I can change that. Let's see, volume control, that works. Channel up, down works. Wow, it's so blurry, you can't even see that. That cannot be the way it was originally. So video control again. Power works, I know that. Menu, there's a back button. That doesn't seem to do anything. We have the mute function, that works. There's a quit option on here, but that doesn't seem to do anything. This is not ideal. Oh, you know what's funny? While playing around with this, it does have an edit function. Well, I don't know. I thought it would let us drag this. Oh, it does let us drag these things around on a grid. I've never seen that before. Don't know how to drag. Oh, that one drags too. Okay. That's cool. You can save as. I've never looked at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to add a Panasonic TV again, because one of the things that it asked for is the OK button. The problem was the interface is so stupid on this when you're testing the buttons, like Power 1, for instance. But when I had the OK button to test, there was no menu up. Oh, and the menu just went away. I was hoping that it would be there. Okay, here we go. OK. Did that work? Oh, there we go. Okay. It was OK number 2 on this. So now it has a new template for me. Cool. Let's see if we can make adjustments here. Okay, so if we go down to setup, is there a reset? We got auto power on set, closed captioning, programming mode, language. All right, so brightness and picture are pretty high, but not maxed. So that's something. That is something. It could be worse. Looks like there's a reset function here. Oh, which is that. Interesting. Brightness down the middle, that up there. Let's see what's in other adjustments. We have a color temperature control, warm, cool, and normal. Well, that's really it in here. We need to figure out how to get to the service menu on this thing. So I'm going to do a quick Google search. If there's a pincushion control on this TV, then I will like it more than I currently do, because this bowing would really annoy me if I was trying to use this for any kind of gaming. This is not acceptable right here. Okay, I managed to get into the service mode, and to do it on this set, basically you set the sleep timer to 30 minutes, you set the volume to 0 all the way down, you set to channel 124, and then you push the volume down button on the actual buttons on the front of the set. Then you get into this service mode where it prints something up here, then you push the power button on the remote, and now we're in the service mode, and this is the B block. And I went and found the service manual, PDF, and these are the adjustments for deflection. And it looks like we have centering, position, east-west trapezoid. So that actually might give us the pincushion that I'm looking for, but I'm not sure. It might also alter the image this way, which is not what I want. And then we have linearity and S correction. So again, those are vertical. None of these necessarily are going to fix what I'm looking for. Let's see what else we have on this TV. Picture-in-picture, this TV, I don't think has picture-in-picture. I think there's a higher model that maybe does. And then we have some kind of S correction, which has automatic black level controls, RGB brightness and gamma, color gamma. It's probably for the on-screen displays. BS point, clock adjust, loud compensation, caption, RGB matrix, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really tell you what each of these things are either, just says the default values. So right off the bat, let's see, I really need to try to fix this pincushion problem that this TV is having. So I'm gonna fiddle around in there and see if I can figure that out. Also, screen is way too low, probably because the CRT is just worn out. So I should get a tool to turn that up, and then we should see another bar here because it's just black right now. Sorry for the sun shining on the CRT. It's actually sunny in Portland, Oregon in the winter. Yeah, this winter has been really mild. Lots and lots of really nice weather. It's weird. Okay, so I need to figure out how to navigate this. So up and down, that seems to change the item. Okay, so this is B01, it's set to 44. I'm just gonna scroll through these in case I messed something up. I'll have a record of it on camera. There we go, those are all of those. Oops, that changes it. How do I switch to the next block? So left, right changes the value, and up, down changes the item number. I gotta switch to the different block. Now the issue here is I'm working with this like universal remote app that might not have the right buttons mapped for me to even change the setting here. Let's see, what do I got here? Stereo button, that doesn't do anything. I'm just sort of pushing everything. Sound button. Yeah, I do not seem to have the function to be able to change this to a different block. Oh, unless it's one of the number keys. Let's try those. No, that just changes the channel. Not helpful. So there's obviously a button that I don't have on this app that it needs to be able to change that option. Okay, you push the power button to change to the different blocks. That's how that works. Yes, now we're on the C block. Cool. I'm looking for the D block, specifically D4. While I'm here, let's go through all the C items, and I'm just going to record those on video. So that's 00, 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 6, 7, and that's it. I push the power button, and now we're on the D block. Okay, so let's fiddle with these. Okay, so we have obviously horizontal position and vertical size, that one looks like. D2, it could be a linearity one or something like that. D3, that might be a linearity one. And here's D4. What does this do? So it was 8. Okay, yeah, what this seems to do, D4, it seems to affect, so east-west typically it means horizontal, north-south, vertical. I don't really see it adjusting anything horizontally. It seems to kind of squish the top. So it originally started on 8, now we're on 0. And if we change this back to 4, see how it's, the top is coming in, like it's coming down. Huh, I don't know. 6. That might be a phase control. 7. It's not obvious what that is. 8, 0. Okay, I don't know what that one does. 9, OA. Okay, it looped around. Problem with this remote, of course, I can't have the service menu or the manual open at the same time. So A was V blank stop phase. 9 was V blank start phase. 8 is V centering DAC switch. 7 is vertical centering. 8, vertical position. 5 was AGC, that was either 0 or 1. 4 was east-west trapezium. 8 is the normal setting. Then 3 was linearity. 2 was S correction, vertical S correction. What that does is S correction means like the beam runs faster, then slows down, and then runs faster again. Or might run faster, slow down, and run faster because you obviously, the distance from the top of the screen to where the electron beam comes from is further when it has to go to the top or the bottom. So, or the scanning rate, I don't know, something like that. So it's got to change the rate, and that will affect the size of these blocks. But one thing is for sure is there are absolutely no controls in this for horizontal size. There's no control in the service menu, that is. And there's nothing to fix this geometry issue at all. Nothing at all. So I don't know if this is because this is worn out or the set was always like this. But yeah, this issue with the convergence being wrong over here and it's soft over there and it's curved in. Unfortunately, there's no way to fix it in the service menu. I'll need to check the schematics of the TV to see if that's something that can be adjusted by a component. Maybe there's a resistor, or sorry, a capacitor that controls this, and perhaps that has gone bad. And that is why this has this problem with the bowing. It's not going to fix this convergence error that's over here in the softness, but at least we could have vertical lines on the sides of the image, which would make this a whole lot better to use with a game console. Problem is with these cheap sets is the bigger the CRT gets, the harder it is to control this stuff. Now Sony has really good electronics in them and you can adjust all that stuff in the service menu, but Panasonic obviously is using less capable jungle ICs and horizontal vertical driver ICs that cannot make those adjustments electronically, while Sony's you absolutely can. Now one thing, by the way, that I am learning, and if I turn the TV off here with the button on the front and we turn it back on, there's some kind of an aging mode that it talked about. I don't know if we're in it now, but that's weird that we're getting that. It's not what I expected, to be honest. I think that's coming from the TV itself. Yeah, look at that. So that's weird. There we go. As soon as the on-screen display goes away, that comes back. Well, how do we... Oh, look. So that does collapse. This is like a mode to adjust the screen voltage. So it dims the screen down, and now our vertical drive is gone. So that's I was pushing the back button on there. How do I switch out of this? Okay. What the freaking heck is going on? I don't know how to get out of this mode. Like, the TV's operating. As soon as I push like volume up, down, it works. The menu button works. Mute. But as soon as the on-screen displays go away, the OSD is generating this full red field. Now, according to the manual, there is a section on this. To check purity, press the recall button on the remote control. In the serviceman menu, the red check is displayed. Enter the purity mode and normal screen and press the recall button to scroll through white screen, red screen, green, and blue. Recall button. I don't have a recall button on this app. Oh, there it is. It's the display button. Okay. So that changes. Oh, so we're still in this sort of service mode with this check thing. So there's a white raster, red, green, and the blue. So the white's pretty dim compared to these colors. Like, that's very bright. That's pretty bright. Interesting. I wonder if this has something to do like the number of hours the set has run. 16B24, 5000. I don't know. That's hexadecimal, looks like. And sorry, I called it aging mode, but actually that is the purity check mode. It does talk about aging mode in here. What does it say in here? Toggle between aging and serviceman mode. While the check is displayed top left corner of the CRT, pushing the action button and the volume up buttons on the remote simultaneously. Red check for service menu and yellow check for aging. What does aging mode do? But you push two buttons on the remote simultaneously? Well, obviously that's not something I could do with this remote, with this universal remote. There must be an extra code that gets sent from the actual Panasonic remote that when you hold those two buttons down, you know, it does that. Oh, and I'm sorry, I misread this. By the way, it says pressing the action and volume up on the receiver simultaneously. So that's action and that's volume up. Okay, so I'm gonna try to push those two together. We'll see what that does. So action, volume up, third over. So I'm pushing volume up. I think the action button might not work. I think the action button is normally the menu button. I'm pushing it, nothing's happening. Yeah, it doesn't really click either. So that button is bad. I'm gonna need to get some contact cleaner, I think, and I'll shoot it in there. All right, well, unfortunately, that button doesn't work after shooting some of this in there. And incidentally, if you use this stuff, you gotta use gloves and do it in a ventilated area. The CRC QD electric cleaner, quite toxic. Anyways, the button doesn't seem to work. And oddly enough, when you exit out or power down the TV and power back up, it stays in this weird mode. And these numbers are all different now than they were earlier. So I don't even know what those mean exactly. Well, I see the way to exit the service mode you have to push the action button and power simultaneously to exit out of that. Look at this. See how this is discoloring over here? I think that's happening because this CRT is super worn out and it's actually potentially deforming the shadow mask. So the electron beam is actually warming up the shadow mask. Yeah, look, it's kind of getting worse. And it's because I have that white image there. If we change to something else, it should go away. Just displaying something else that's less intense than that bright white should allow it to cool down and that will go away. Let's go check real quick. Yeah, see, it's not doing it now. But if we let it sit there, it will get worse and worse. It might do it on this one too, since this is pretty bright white over here. And I think that could happen anywhere on the image as well. But this thing has some automatic beam current limiting stuff. And I must say, I know it's gonna be hard to tell in the camera, but this is not a bright TV. It's not bright in my garage right now. And remember, the picture control is maxed out, and yet it's just not that bright. I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna grab a tool to adjust the screen brightness because I know that needs to be turned up. And we'll see if this thing will look a little bit better with that turned up. And I don't know, I'll leave it on that so it doesn't burn in the CRT too bad. All right, I got some tools. Yep, that discoloration is gone. These are ceramic tools, so they're safe. Boy, this is so far away, I can barely see what I'm doing here. There we go. I turned it up and you can see there's an extra bar there that wasn't visible before. This looks pretty terrible right now. Oh, and look at the discoloration that's happening over here. It's just gonna keep getting worse and worse and worse. So the screen brightness is up a little bit too much because now I can see some of this is now gray as opposed to being black. Yeah, look at this. It's getting worse and worse. By the way, retrace lines are now visible. The CRT is so worn out. It is so worn out. Yeah, check this out. This TV is probably not worth saving. Because anytime you're playing a game and you have the brightness turned up and you have white on the screen, it's gonna start doing this. So even like in the middle of the screen, it'll start doing this. And that's just because it's worn out. Now the colors are nice and bright here, right? It looks pretty good actually, but that doesn't look that bright. And I think what's happening is like some automatic beam current limiting is happening. This thing knows it's worn out and it's driving the CRT really hard. You know, screen brightness is all the way up. It should be much brighter, but since it's worn out, it's really pushing it. And yeah, I think something's happening. It's overheating the shadow mask. That's the best of my understanding of what's happening there. The image is more vibrant than it was, that's for sure, since I turned up the screen. Now that ramp we were looking at where it's discoloring over here, that was running this section at 100% brightness. In the NTSC signal, there's like from 0 to 100% or 7.5 to 100%. I think it's IRE, it's like the units it uses. I'm not sure this is 100% right there. Is that discoloring? Maybe it's just starting to. This is 100% IRE down here. See, that's pretty bright compared to this even. So it might start discoloring if I leave it on that for a while. But I'm pretty sure the ramp, this whole bar is 100% over here. And that's causing it to do that discoloring thing. I'll leave it and see if it does it down here. Okay, so leaving this running for a while, yep, it's starting to have issues there as well. It doesn't look kind of yellowy, it's turning kind of a bluish green color. So it still looks okay there in that corner, but down here it's starting to kind of fade out and look a little green. So yeah, the same problem was happening. It's funny, it's really quite cold in the garage right now. It's probably like 10 degrees Celsius. And the glass is really cold, but I think it's heating up the shadow mask from the electron beam itself. It's driving so much current into it that it's causing that. See, this is no longer uniform when it definitely was when we started. And if we go over here, back to the ramp, there's no discoloring happening over there, but then that'll start happening. Now, while we just watched that discolor, I started looking through the service manual and yeah, thanks Panasonic. It's a whole service manual for this TV. There are no schematics. So there's the main board. I do not know if this thing has a cap that's used for the pin cushion because it's not listed. None of the parts are in here. And even worse, if I scroll through here, there's pinouts of some of the ICs. We have block diagrams of the various subsections, but there isn't one for the deflection. That might help us. If there was a deflection one, it would tell us if there was some kind of parts that we could change that would fix the pin cushion issue. Video signal path block diagram, audio signal path block diagram, and that's it. It just sort of goes into adjustments, focus and stuff like that. Well, I don't need that. I need to know if I can adjust the geometry, the pin cushion, because I mean, this is terrible. This is so bad. Hope that comes across in the camera. Yeah, there's no way I could use this TV. This would bother me so much, that both the geometry issues plus this discoloration that's happening. So I think this TV, while it works, this is definitely not something that I'm keeping. Definitely not, because I don't think there's any way to fix this stuff. And I'm just looking through the service manual here, and it does not mention anything about geometry fixes or any components in the whole path of the deflection that could potentially fix this. And it's so frustrating how there's no schematics in here. That just seems very chintzy on Panasonic's part, because this is a relatively complete manual. Otherwise, there it is. This is the TV, 27D10B, I think it was the top one. The other ones probably are better with picture-in-picture and those other features, but yeah, check this out. The interesting thing is, with this mode, the VG91 is not outputting any color information, so the TV has turned on its color killer, and it seems to actually turn off the chroma trap filter, something I talked about in that recent Sharp TV video I made, and it actually means that we're getting very high resolution displays. It's very wavy. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's turn off the interlacing. That didn't make a difference. I don't know why this is waving about so much. That's not a camera artifact. It looks weird. And maybe that's a problem with the VG91. I am actually not sure. The VG91 probably needs new caps because it's like a device from the 90s. But I have interlacing turned off, and it's all this weird shimmering is happening. Anyways, I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, it turns off the color killer. So we have pretty high resolution over here. With the color signal enabled, it's this one. So, well, not exactly the same pattern, but these are lines that get closer and closer together. And when the color signal is enabled, the TV turns on its color decoding. And even though this is a solid cyan color and we see rainbows here, that is strictly because the color decoding is running, and we have vertical lines just like an Apple II. So if you looked at this on a composite video monitor, we would see vertical lines just like Apple II video, but the TV is decoding that as solid cyan, because this is the actual exact frequency of the color carrier on NTSC. This is slightly out of phase, which is why you have these rainbows. So if the color decoder on the TV is out of phase, like it's not running at the right speed, then this solid box will have those rainbows in it. You might have a solid box here or there. But either way, like I said, it's weird about the shimmering, but it does look high res. So this would look really good, this Panasonic TV, or a better one that wasn't worn out, hooked up to an Apple II in text mode. It would actually probably look good. But unfortunately, like I said, this TV is too worn out for something that I would want to keep. It's so big and unwieldy, so it would need to be working really well for me to want to keep it. And if the deflection weren't bad and the CRT weren't so worn out that it was discoloring the image when I had the brightness turned up all the way, maybe I would keep it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So I think I'm going to share this with our local community and see if anyone else wants this. But I would rate this quality-wise as like a D plus maybe. If you're not a pixel peeper, you don't care about the geometry issues, okay, it's fine. A kid wouldn't mind playing a retro video game on this. But on the other hand, I'm pretty sure this TV would have worked a whole lot better when it was new. And this discoloration issue, which is just slightly happening there, but with the picture turned down, notice it's not as bad. Unfortunately, there's really no way to fix that. This is happening specifically because this CRT is just super worn out, and whoever had this TV before got their use out of it. And that's a really good thing. Like I said, if this thing were mint and then broken because it was smashed or something, that makes me sad. But when something is used up and its intended purpose was served, I feel a lot better about it. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this look at this 27-inch Panasonic, then thumbs up would be appreciated. But if not, you know what to do. Huge thank you to my supporters. Their names are going up beside the screen. Thank you to the original viewer who let me know about this TV. At least we got a video out of it, even though it is not in the best of shape. But hey, you know, you win some, you lose some, right? And yeah, comment down below and subscribe and all the usual YouTube junk. And that is going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I'd turn it off if I could, safely reach the power button. Oh, I can reach the power button. There we go. It's off now. Bye.